Hello guys, welcome to our YouTube channel. Enjoy this video.
Take me somewhere unfamiliar, bring me back to where we started.
So, hey guys, it's been a while. It's been about 2 months now. I want to start off with this actually, not really pertaining, but I want to say I've seen this document. I've seen 3 versions of this document already. Because as you can tell, it was made months ago. It has not been 2 months since the incident. So it's been sent to a few friends of mine. I received it, and me and Fed spoke about it a while ago. Sorry, I have my, the stuff that I want to share on the side here. So if you see me look to the side, that's what it is, just so I don't miss anything. Yeah, it was actually the first, when I confronted him about finding out about this document, it was the first time that we've spoken since everything unfolded. And it wasn't easy, but we came to a decent understanding of each other, and wanting to handle it privately, which is why it's so unfortunate that this was leaked anyways. Very unfortunate. So yeah, I'm gonna try to go through the parts specific to me. I think this is all mainly just like stuff about him, so I'm gonna skip over this. And he says that basically the purpose is that when he saw my stream where I talked about him, he feels like it painted him in a very negative light. He says, I definitely did some questionable things and broke her trust, but there are some claims she makes about me, Yvonne and I are just friends, and herself that are either false, twisting the truth, or misconstrued. I understand from his perspective it seems like that, but obviously I feel like I also spoke my truth. At the end of the day, there's 2 sides to every story, so I'm going to be addressing these claims as well as giving context to mostly everything that was mentioned on our stream, since I feel that is very important and personal to me. Oh, this is so long. This Foki thing all started as a joke when I made a picture. Poki has my phone background, obviously. So he's basically saying there was a Taiwan trip, February 14th, 2018. Valentine's Day, woo. Almost 3 years ago now. And that was the first time that, me and Fed had, flirted or gotten close, or essentially it was when we first started getting close. You guys fucking eating popcorn? Fuck you guys. This is my real life. A lot of good moments came from that trip. It felt like the honeymoon phase of getting to know someone, and that's what it was. This was the first time we talked and looked at each other differently. We discussed blah, 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 blah. By the way, if I blah, blah, anything you guys find is important, please let me know. It's just things that I feel like don't have much to say about. We came back from Taiwan and kept being close, started hanging out a lot, talking a lot, blah, blah, blah. It was pretty obvious to our friends and roommates something was going on, but no one really asked about it. Just details about us hanging out, watching stuff together. We did get very close, that's true. And, oh my gosh. Insert very cringy text messages that have no place on the internet, but essentially, me and Fed had just gotten really close, although we obviously weren't dating, we were talking, and we lived together. It's we were able to hang out a lot and we worked together, so yeah, we became close. In March 2018, we had an honest discussion about the direction we were heading, and she brought up some notable problems. A, that we live together and could be a problem if things don't work out, and B, we are board members / own equity of the company that we work for. This could be a conflict of interest and could get nasty if things didn't work out between us. So I am very much of that mindset where it's if there are so many conflicts in regards to me pursuing something with someone, I am highly unlikely to do it unless I felt wow, this is the person for me. Sorry, I need to let my cat in. Yep, come on in. You can enjoy the show too. I'm so sorry if you guys hear that sound. Skipping the pictures? Oh, I'm sorry. They're really just cringe. It's Fetty Weddy. Or you look cute. Oh, you made me blush. It's really just cringe. But yeah, definitely this was the first time we got to know each other, and therefore like kind of the flirtiest time in my opinion. But then I was like, we can't really do this unless, again, I feel like this is something we seriously want to pursue. April/May 2018, pretty much the same as March, except she was traveling a lot. We texted and FaceTimed, and would call each other cute stuff. Like, we're obviously acting coupley here. Whenever we're apart, we FaceTime. I super felt like we were disregarding the conversation we had in March and kind of just going with the flow. Obviously, I'm excited about this because by this time, I liked her enough that I wanted to try to be serious/exclusive. And more, do you miss me? You're cute, blah, blah, blah. Upcoming are some parts that are, well, yeah. So EDC 2018 comes around, a music festival in May, and he was roommates with someone. Of course, it was pretty obvious to him that I was texting Pokey, and I actually remember this, that we were texting, and I think just like alluding to our manager and Josh that we were talking. And he goes on to say, like, I'm a really private person and that he shouldn't have alluded to someone that we were talking. But actually, in this instance, we really, like, this was the first time that we started talking, and we were starting to talk pretty seriously. And I was like, I need to figure out whether this is something that I want to pursue and risk the conflict of interest, or just something I'm not interested in. So I actually don't really care about this at all. Where he's like, I shouldn't have overshared. This was not my issue at this point in time. We FaceTime in the morning. I don't even remember any of this, to be honest. She called me out on using language like that in front of people, which is true. Like, I don't really want to act coupley until I make that decision to be coupley. And again, I was still, like, trying to figure it out. I feel like I need to understand the boy scene a little bit more. I mean, you know, I was, like, 20, 21 in LA, single, freshly in LA, whatever the heck, right? I wanted to be sure of whoever I was going to pursue. And also for Fed, as I said here, also he should date around, because like I also didn't like the online pressure of people shipping us, and I don't like the idea of like falling into it just because there's pressure. I think it is much healthier to like get a good lay of the land and pursue someone because you genuinely like them, not just because there's like internet attention around your names. For me then, this came out of left field and I felt pretty stupid. I was hurt, blah, blah. I do remember having this conversation and I was investing so much time. I was trying to be understanding, but it brought up a lot of insecurities and notions of not being good enough. And for me, it was like, I just need to figure out whether I like actually like someone or not. For both of us, emotions always made things so complicated. I wish I was better at navigating them earlier. After taking time to understand her concerns, I came around to her unease. She wanted to be sure of her feelings and not just there because we're accessible to each other. That too. I was like, we're physically really close, and that makes you feel like maybe someone's like the right person, but anyways. Oh my god, this is so cringe because like, I'm not like massively older and massively more mature, but I really was that. I was like, don't like call me pet names unless we're dating. Because I feel like it's just a line I draw, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, whatever. Yeah, I was like, I want to be very private until you make the jump, then I don't care, because that's just how it be with me. But at the same time, like, it was difficult to navigate because obviously he was someone I cared about and I didn't want to hurt his feelings in any way. And also someone I lived with and also someone I worked with. So again, a fragile connection in a sense. By now you can see there was a cycle of talking again and then, oh wait, there's a problem. This cycle continued throughout the years and every time it didn't work out. I think I also parted myself more and more. I started to realize maybe I'm not good enough. The things the cycle did to me were fucked. I became more and more frustrated. I started to become jealous, insecure at times. I would act out sometimes, lock myself in my room all day and stream Pokemon for the entire day to avoid her. I would go over to just friends, sit under their streamer house and vent about my frustrations. So I'd like to elaborate on this. For me, that's kind of the awkward thing. So for me, and I think it's a part he skipped over in his document, but there's VODs of this. After EDC, I went to Canada around that time to visit my parents, and he had surprise visited me in Canada. Again, around the time that we first started talking, and I was like, do I like him, do I not? And then when he showed up, I was really flattered by that because I don't have like a shit ton of dating experience, and no one had ever done such like an extravagant thing per se to surprise me. So I was like, oh, maybe I should give him a chance. And so in Canada, I was like trying to open my heart up to the idea a bit more. But I realized it just didn't feel right, essentially. And I was like, oh, okay, now I know like this is not something that I want to pursue. So when we came back home, again, May-ish, I had that talk with him. May 2018, I believe. I had that talk with him. And I was like, because I remember it was an emotional talk. I was like, listen, dog, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm so not used to talking about private stuff, so yeah. I think you guys get the point. So I think to me, it was like, I've had this conversation with you, and now, like, admittedly, in hindsight, it was selfish that, like, I wanted to, like, still be friends and still be close. But I think he read that as, like, signs of maybe wanting more. But in my mind, I was like, I already had this convo with you of, like, not wanting more. So but also, there was, like, this cycle of, like, we'd get close, and I'd be like, I think, like, you think this is headed in a way that it's not headed. Like, we can't be, like, this close. Because, like, boundaries would be pushed, and blah, blah, blah. So, since we're on that subject, oh my god, I just realized I am not reading my side of the document at all. So I'm just gonna make sure that I didn't miss anything. Taiwan trip 3 years ago was the first time me and Fed got close, had any sort of flirty interaction, blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, saying the private cringy flirty text, they're kind of whatever. Anyone who's ever flirted with anyone probably has cringy texts like that. I want to reiterate that even though these are out, my personal life is still my right to discuss publicly as little or as much as I personally desire. I also want to say that I feel he implied we were heavily involved when me and Fed were never intimate, we were never sexual, and also I knew, and anyone who has watched his stream, like, he's kind of a flirty guy, right? So as cringy as these are, I don't think these texts from 3 years ago are indicative of much in regards to the things that I said were problematic in my first stream, which I will get to. Oh, yes. So essentially, people reading this document may feel like I lied about there being something going on between me and Fed. I understand where that comes from completely, and just want to explain that I was trying to share a very specific instance where I felt Fed lied about the state of our friendship or relationship, and it happened much later than these texts in Taiwan. It happened way after May when he visited, and I had that conversation with him of like, listen, I just want to be friends. So that's why, in my mind, I was saying, like, this was so after the time that we were involved. I knew, and I think he knew, that it was inappropriate for him to say to, he brings up Steve later, I don't even know where. That's the incident that I was actually referring to. So later, after the conversation in May, I'm like, we're just friends. I think this was like summer, July, June. Steve is a random fucking name, let's be honest. So, yeah, I think, genuinely speaking, I can't say that either of us maneuvered the situation as best as we could, but I always tried to be so upfront about, like, I just want to be friends. I'm seeing other people. Like, yeah, I want to be close to you. I obviously still want to be your friend. Like, you're a really important person in my life, and I understand those signs are probably misconstrued. But that's why I was so open about, like, oh, I'm really excited for, like, this person to come to the party. I want to talk to this person, that person, blah, blah, blah. So that's what happened. He told Steve, essentially, that we were a thing long after I had this conversation with him about, I just want to be friends. So that's why I mentioned that specific part on my stream. So I understand now people are like, yeah, but you guys flirted, so you had a thing. In my mind, it was like, we flirt here, we end here. And then he fucks up way over here. I hope that makes sense. I also wanted to showcase only one screenshot because, yeah, I'm not really here to air dirty laundry. But I want to make it clear that, to me, this was an incident with Steve. An incident that was very clearly a mess up on Fed's part. Because when he told Steve that night, oh yeah, me and Pokey have a thing. Steve told me, and I said, no, we don't. I confronted Fed about it. Fed apologized and said, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Like, yeah, it was my bad. I didn't want something happening, blah, blah, blah. So to me, it was like, oh, you admitted fault. Like, you know that what you did was wrong. And also, prior to the first stream I did where I spoke about everything, I messaged Fed and I said, I'm going to speak out about things because I feel like people are being really harsh towards Lily and Yvonne and they're not believing them. Is there anything that you would really want me to leave out? I don't know if I can accommodate, but I also don't want to make things terribly difficult for you. I won't mention or super personal details, mainly some lies and instances where people felt manipulated. And he said, if you can find it in you to leave out telling, like the situation where I told Steve that you and I were a thing, it's something I would just not like mentioned, but I understand if not. Otherwise, I trust you, and I think doing what's best for Lily and Yvonne's comfort is the right play. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't leave that out because it's the best/easiest example I can give of lying or like some form of manipulation. So again, this is the only thing I am willing to include, like just as an actual fact check of like, he asked me not to mention this thing, which to me is like an admission of guilt, essentially. But now, months later, he's saying, oh no, that's not how it went down. And you know what? It's his prerogative to say that. But obviously, I have been told and have been believing what I've been told for however long. So that was my truth in regards to this happening. All right. So yeah. Essentially, we just had trouble being close, but managing our friendship, especially knowing he wanted more, but I was always upfront. Well, I always felt I was upfront about how I felt and what he could or couldn't expect from me. Obviously, we probably were not on the same page. We were essentially in a difficult to maneuver situation. It really bothered me that in this document, he tried so hard to paint me as the bad guy or like leading him on when I felt I was always honest. And I know there are parts in here where he's like, yeah, and sometimes she would like hang out with guys at the house and it was like, it felt really bad for me. And you know what? I get that, but I hope you guys can also see from my perspective, that was me trying to be upfront about like, I am dating, I am seeing people, like, again, I am not pursuing a future between the two of us. So I hope you guys can kind of see how there's two sides to that. And again, I never wanted to intentionally hurt him or want him to feel bad. Obviously, I, at this point, don't think he was trying to do that to me either. Just think that some moments were like really inconsiderate. But anyways, looking back, I should have been more aware and careful of how I acted around him, so there are no signals to misread, but you know, hindsight 2020. And I learned a lot from the situation. To me, in all honesty, it's really, all of this is really not all that important. It's regular 20-year-old relationship bullshit. He said, she said, blah, blah, you know, nothing that important happened, in my opinion. What I shared about the Steve situation is my honest truth. And I feel like it is just really irrelevant in comparison to the incident that actually triggered all of this, if that makes sense. I don't even know where I left off. Am I trying to allow to a friend to talk to? Oh, yes, I think this is a good place to go. So, since we're on that subject, in her stream, she mentioned I would try to manipulate just friends, which is like our friends, to hate her or not be her friend. That's unfoundedly slanderous. I'm so sorry, that wording makes me laugh a bit. My intention was always that I wanted a friend to talk to. Lily was probably sick of hearing the same story between us every 3 months. Thanks for always listening to me anyway, Lily. Probably true. And can I just say, like, everything over the last, like, 3 years just makes me realize that, like, as much as me and Fed, like, kind of got along, we just are such different people, and we see things so differently. So the way he sees it is like, oh, I'm just, like, venting to my friends because I need to let my emotions out. For me, I tried really hard not to vent to people within or very close to OTV about Fed, because I knew that essentially it's kind of like shit talking him, and then they're gonna see him differently, and it's just gonna fuck with the dynamic. But I don't think he realized that aspect of things. So he said, I wanted nothing more than for everyone to be friends with Pokey. So let me give a little context here, since that was never provided. Pokey always goes to bed at midnight every night without fail, and if she doesn't, something's really wrong. And if she stays up longer, she gets crazy in a funny way. Sometimes true. She takes the AM streaming slots, as most of you know, so that requires good sleep. Obviously, of course, after my stream, I'd always seek quality time with her, and that would generally involve dinner and a show. Some nights we would eat downstairs and other nights on our bed, so if I stopped the stream at 10 p.m., I'd hang with her till midnight. Then I would F off and hang out with the rest of the house and go hang out at just friends. I'd primarily vent to one of the girls about everything. She'd always give me a good female's perspective and made me feel like it was going to be okay. It was in some sense therapeutic. I would rarely talk to the other girls about my issues with Pokey. From my perspective and from what I've heard, that doesn't seem true. He also mentions talking to Lily. He mentions talking to another girl at Just Friends, and again, just not what I really heard. It's just nuts to hear now that I was being manipulative and trying to make the girls hate her, leave her out intentionally. That's complete bullshit. I just wanted someone to talk to that could guide me through those emotions. It's also difficult to now hear some of the girls say that they looked at me as a member of OTV and not just a friend, like I looked at them. I understand that although my intentions were innocent, the unintentional side effect is that the Just Friends people might have seen her differently. I'm deeply sorry, and I wish I was more aware of those repercussions. I do, however, think intentions matter when you're characterizing someone as a manipulator in front of thousands of people. So, essentially, he was very frustrated by the fact that I was saying all of these people around me have come to me and told me that they essentially avoided being my friend because of things you had told them. And that made them feel manipulated. That made me feel manipulated. But it wasn't his intention, and he wasn't trying to be manipulative. So you see how it's a bit of a fine line. He was really unhappy being painted as a manipulator, when in reality, he was just inconsiderate in the way that he was talking about me. But to us, it just felt manipulative, because we're like, oh, we just missed out on friendships we could have had all along, essentially. And it makes me deeply uncomfortable to see someone essentially like psychoanalyze me and provide all of these, in my opinion, irrelevant details in regards to my life. I know he's kind of trying to like take the blame off of how he might have impacted potential friendships, but to me, it's just unnecessary. So I'm gonna read. I might be repeating some things, but I want to read what I wrote. So yeah, again, actually, I'll finish reading this paragraph and then I'll say it. If she was really afraid of being alienated, she would have taken the time out of her day to be their friend. She didn't stream every day. She could have gone over just to hang like I did so many times on my off days. None of the things I would ever say to Just Friends would ever imply that they shouldn't be friends with her. It was only ever typical relationship issues and how do I get over it type conversations. It's crazy to me that things are being said otherwise. There wasn't a looming dark cloud of malice towards her in that house. This is the truth. Pokey would generally only come over if there was something she could tangibly benefit from in some way. Large streaming events, midnight birthday streams. It's the same reason you never saw her come into people's streams at OTV. And when she wasn't streaming, she was also always grinding or practicing whatever game she wanted to get better at for stream. I don't want to go into this too deep. Sorry. because I'm not here to attack her character, but it's just the way things were. She had her priorities, we had ours. I'm sure she's gotten better at it now. Midnight hangout sessions at Just Friends, LOLY. She applies this kind of philosophy to so many things in her life. It truly disappointed me because I and people in the house wanted her more in our lives. I get it, she was driven by her business and stream. It's just wild that I'm the scapegoat now for her not wanting to make sacrifices to go over Just Friends. I don't feel that is fair at all. Okay. My side. Hello, it is me, Pokey, the actual person doing these things. It is so weird to, like, by a friend try to be painted as, like, this, like, ruthless businesswoman. Like, yeah, I mean, streaming is such a cool career. Of course, it's something that I care about a lot, that I was especially really interested in then. I've learned to balance my life a bit better. But I just want to say, these are none of the reasons why it was sometimes difficult for me to hang out with other people. It wasn't because I wanted something out of them. I mean, I can't even recall anything that I could gain from, like, streaming events at other people's houses, midnight birthday streams. I'm like one head in the back of like 20. But the reason these were a bit easier for me to go to is because, like, oh, it's someone's birthday. I want to go say happy birthday. But when it comes to, like, oh, let me just Uber over to their house at a point in time where I didn't have solid friendships with these people. And also, as I have tried to state earlier, essentially, like, the things that he had said to people, I could tell that there were just bad vibes. You know what I mean? I think you guys know what I mean. Like, sometimes you get that sentiment that someone just sees you differently, or, like, isn't really open to wanting to be your friend. That's why, like, I couldn't drive over at 10 p.m. like he perhaps felt comfortable to, and I felt more comfortable in large settings. Or for birthdays where I felt like it made sense for me to come over and say happy birthday. In a sense, that was like a step that I was trying to take to be supportive. And I actually remember, like, I remember this thought pattern that I had a lot and that I even shared with him, where I was like, oh, like, do you think I, like, come off as intimidating to some people or something? Like, am I hard to approach? Sometimes I want to be friends with people, but I feel like I don't get that same feeling back. So I know this is something I shared with him, and it has nothing to do with me profiting off of, like, oh my god, lol, I don't even know, you know? So yeah. That's my take, and I think the best testament to all of this is just the fact that in the last 6 months, and I'm not saying this is entirely Fed's fault, to some extent it was also me, but I know that after the intervention, it felt like there was, like, this barrier lifted from between me and so many other people, and now my friendships with people in OTV, with Just Friends, with our friends in general, is just, like, tremendously better than it was before. Y'all seen me be up late and shit, okay? So it wasn't that, like, I always felt I had to stream at a certain time, but it was also like I needed to feel, like, really invited or really welcomed, and I just didn't back then. So yeah. I feel like I'm talking a mile a minute. I'm gonna finish just this part about, like, friendships and stuff, and then I will ask you guys if you have any questions before we move on to the rest. So yeah, again, this part makes me uncomfortable to read, and maybe you guys can relate. But when you see someone else psychoanalyze you to kind of arrive to whatever conclusion they want to get to, it just feels weird. Like, me waking up early, like, sure, I like a nice sleep schedule, but you guys have seen me stay up hella late for Among Us streams or for whatever, as long as I have the company to do it with and I feel welcomed. It just feels weird, but the point is, me and Fed spoke about this when I first learned of this document weeks ago. He felt that what I said on stream made it seem like he manipulated people around me into not wanting to be my friend, and he was upset because we didn't mention that that wasn't his intention. He didn't mean to have that impact, even though he did. He was just being inconsiderate in regards to the way he spoke about me to my friends. And I believe this. I don't think he was actively trying to make people not want to be my friend, even though that's what he ended up doing. And this wasn't a conclusion that I tried to come to at all. It was one that was almost like hurtfully thrown in my face when we held these interventions. And I spoke out about my feelings, and so many people came up to me and apologized and told me that they saw me in a different light because of things Fed said, and that they were just so sorry that they like really put no effort into trying to be friends, or yeah, they just had this perception of me already, which, mind you, is also a very common thing online. Like, I have people come in my chat and they're like, just heard all these people shit talk you or like these weird videos, but I actually watch your streams and I really like you now. Like, it's essentially that, to be honest. So yeah, the same thing has happened to me. You know, sometimes he has mentioned certain things to me, and maybe he doesn't think that it'll have an impact on the way that I see someone, but it does. And then I kind of avoid being their friend. But then later on, I find out that they're actually really great people I would have gotten along with. And it's something that just happens in friend groups, okay? It just fucking happens. Unfortunately, the way it happened with Fed was like a bit of a larger scale and a bit more only about me. Yeah. So it was unfortunate, it was unintentional, but nonetheless, it did occur. So, yeah, and the last part I just say, like, yeah, I talk about my schedule and bedtime, blah, 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 but I think it's kind of easy to see that I'm just much closer with everybody now, and I'm so happy about that, and it feels so nice to know that, like, even when something like this comes out, like, I have friends that I know will support me, and that really know and like just truly genuinely know who I am now, and I think that is just priceless.